I've been up since 3:30 a.m., actually a little before that, because my manager, Jacob, asked me to report for work even earlier than usual at 5 a.m. because supposedly some men were going to come to Ross to reconfigure our phone system. Well, as it turned out, they never showed up. I still got a lot of work done. That that ding that dinging that you hear is from Facebook Messenger. My sister is messaging me because she received a card addressed to her ex-husband with her address on it. And she's afraid that since he's about to be evicted from his townhouse, that he is angling to move in with her. She lives in the house that my mom lived in and that we lived in from 1964 on. Well, I haven't lived there since 1964, but she had lived there since 1964. And she's worried about that. We're also all planning to go actual bowling. We did Wii bowling last night on my sister's TV, which was so much fun that I am arranging for us to have a bowling party at Retro Bowl, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, which should be interesting. Anyway, as I was talking about before, I was at Ross really early this morning. I was asked because I'm reliable and I show up, and I kind of wondered why I needed to be there. Why? I mean, he could have done this. I'm not sure why I was asked to go, but I ran a rack of apparel and I moved some stuff out of the way so that the phone people would be able to access this back room. And it was all for naught because they never showed up. Anyway, today one of the managers asked me if I was planning to interview for Jacob's manager position since he's leaving. And I said, sure, I'd be glad to. And I told her it would be an honor to work with her and another of the managers. I didn't mention one of the managers, and I should have. I would really find it to be an honor to work with all of the managers at the Ross store because I think they're all great. However, the one trepidation I have with all of this is how many hours am I going to be working? I don't mind working early morning. I don't mind working until the job is done. What I do mind working is all day long because I did that when I taught school. Now, I don't mind working 6.5 hours per day. To be full-time, you have to work a minimum of 37 hours. Well, I've been working 6 days a week, so I'm probably approaching that number of hours as it is. I just don't want to be there all the time. And I know me, and when I worked at Worlds of Fun decades ago, I was just there all the time because there was always something to do. And school, I was there all day. I still had 2 hours of work in the evening. I would go in on the weekends. I become all consumed with work, and I'm hoping to avoid that. Anyway, my work ethic continues to haunt me even in my old age and retirement. Anyway, so it wasn't a bad day at work. Yeah, I love working in the cash office, and didn't get to today. My manager did it instead, and I've got to get used to the fact that he's going to do it if he wants to, and if he wants to work in the cash office, that is his privilege. He likes working in there as well, so I'm not going to let it bother me. It is what it is. I work hard. I sometimes get a little bit sensitive about how much work my fellow employees are doing, and I also get a little paranoid. I think, okay, they're trying to get out of work. But the two I was suspicious of, they tagged shoes. There were only 5 boxes. And they ran the shoes to the floor. And then one of them helped with tagging apparel. So I've got to quit being suspicious of other people's actions. That's always been a problem of mine. I do enjoy working with the people with whom I toil at Ross because they are a lot of fun to work with, and the time passes extremely fast. So that is what it is. And my niece's boyfriend, Kaysen, has applied. I've talked about this before for Ross, and I talked to my manager, Jacob, about him. And, like, be on the lookout for this person, this Kaysen. And I think it'll be a lot of fun to have Kaysen there. I think it'll be a learning curve like it was for me and like it is for everyone. But I think he will enjoy going. He doesn't have a driver's license, so he would be riding with me in the morning. And unless he wants to walk, he's going to have to be ready to go when I leave at about 5:38 a.m. And likewise, he's going to have to stay as long as I want to stay because he's going to have to walk home. We live right across he lives across the street from me, but in our neighborhood is just across the street from Ross. So, I mean, he could walk home in 10 to 15 minutes anyway. But in inclement weather, that would be inconvenient. But I think it'd be okay. I think it's going to work out just fine. And I most likely will be the one who trains him. Therefore, I can train him the way he needs to be trained. And I think he will be another in that sphere who will set a great example for those who are not as intrinsically motivated as I and others are in that location. The Wii bowling last night, I did surprisingly well. We used to play Wii bowling over 20 years ago, way back when my sister was married to her husband and they lived in Blue Springs, and my alter ego was still in there and my statistics from before were still in there, but I did really well. I won 2 of the 4 games that we played last night, so I caught on to it really fast. And we played Wii Golf as well. I didn't do quite as well with that. But when I went to William Jewell College, and I talked about that in the previous segment, I was announced as being the best chipper and putter in the class. Not only was I surprised when our teacher, the Coach Gorley, I think it was, announced that in class, but my fellow students were equally surprised as well. Here I was just going along doing what I needed to be doing in that class, and then to be the best chipper and putter, that was extremely surprising to me and to them as well. So as I continue my daily existence today, I got to leave at 10. I went into the office and told Jacob and Kelly, that's that other manager that was there today. She's the one that asked me if I was going to apply for Jacob's position, interview for Jacob's position. I said, you don't need me anymore today. I'm going to leave. And off I went. And I stopped at Hy-Vee, which I love doing during the day because, and I think I mentioned this in one of the previous segments, at first I felt guilty being out during the day, but now I like being out in the day. It seems like the people who shop during the day are calmer, cooler, more collected, a lot of retired folks, that kind of thing. Tonight, back to school night in Liberty Public Schools. One of the things I loved doing when I was a teacher, and ironically, one of the ladies that I work with at Ross is her children go to Liberty Oaks. I asked her where her kids went, and she said Liberty, and I said, well, what school specifically? And she said Liberty Oaks, which kind of threw me because her kids went to Liberty Oaks last year as well, and I said, a year ago, you could have seen me and I could have seen you at Liberty Oaks because I did back to school night. And I felt like it was a really good night for the most part. And it was like the countdown. I had, about 3.5 weeks left before I would depart from that place. And I had to fight off the temptation to warn Grace about that principal over there, the one whom for over 19 years I battled constantly because basically she had a lot against me. I'm not sure why. From the time she met me, she hated me. She acted at times like she was cordial anyway. And she always said, I care for you, Ron. I really care about you and all of that. But deep down, if your boss hates you, you're pretty much doomed. And I kept thinking, I can outlast her. I can outlast her. And ultimately, I could not outlast her. I could not have been over there any longer than I actually was. But sometimes you have bosses that, I don't know, when you have someone with whom you work, and not necessarily your boss, who just basically does not like you, there's not a whole lot you can do. And I was a boss at Worlds of Fun, and I was a teacher, and I know there were some kids who just rubbed me the wrong way. And sometimes you overcompensate by, because deep down that kid annoys you. In my case, I would try to overcompensate or compensate for that. And I'm sure I've had bosses who've done the same thing for me. And when I was a supervisor, manager, and supervisor at Worlds of Fun, there were some people that just rubbed me the wrong way. And in hindsight, there were some that there was a boy that worked for me at Rangoon Refresher in 1982, and I had worked with his older brother. His name was Norman. The older brother's name was Greg, but Norman was the one who just was always making smug comments and just rankled me. And when it was time to redo the schedules for the summer season, I conveniently left Norman off the schedule. Shouldn't have done it, but he just rubbed me the wrong way. Sometimes that happens because we are all human. My time is already up, and I can't believe it. And, I could talk all night, and most people wouldn't want to listen to that. But I will be back in RM Real Moments segment 11. Truly phenomenal things are coming.